Ready to go?
We are ready to go. Oh, almost. Sorry, it's finishing.
Okay.
Okay. We are good to go now.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're really excited to have you for our Soundhouse Backstage series. And our special guest for today, Aijia Grammer. What's great about Aijia is that she has not only worked in the backstage of the music industry, but she's been a performer on stage. She's a creator. She writes music, she arranges, she produces, she's involved in socially responsive group projects. And so she sees all aspects of the industry, not just from the backstage, which gives her a tremendous perspective because she understands, what the artist is going through, because she's been at these amazing concerts with Selena Gomez and Aijia Grammer and all these other amazing artists. And so she knows from that perspective, but she also works behind the scenes. So Aijia, tell us about how you got involved in the business and, what led you to where you are now in terms of being a writer, a producer, and all that stuff. So tell us about your background.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Well, I grew up here in LA, so I always I come from a musical family. Music was very encouraged, and we had to do piano lessons growing up and the whole gamut. My grandfather taught piano at USC. He was the jazz piano professor there. Wow. And that whole line of family tunes pianos for a living. So we're like, we have like a fourth generation piano tuning business. So it was encouraged in my home. No one was doing music like touring at that point, but we were, I was encouraged to go to school for music, and I don't come from like a line of doctors. So yeah, I kind of came out knowing what I wanted to do. I know not everyone has that story, and some people have to take a windy road to get to where they want to be. But for me, I always knew I wanted to do something in music. And I think in my earlier years, I didn't know what that would look like. So I just thought it meant you had to be a pop star or something. That the only way is if you're on stage performing. Yeah. And that has sort of evolved through my life because as I got older, I realized that there's just so many ways to do music in so many varieties. So I feel like I kind of I tried a lot of different things just to see what I liked. And I grew up in Burbank. So Burbank has like an unbelievable music program in their public school system. It's like one of the top music programs in the country. So I was really fortunate because I was just at public school and we had this great program. And then I went on to CSUN, and that's where I studied jazz. I was a jazz voice major. But a lot of the program was set up for instrumentalists. So I took a lot of my tests in piano because you kind of have to have an instrument. And then just one thing led to another, and I kind of like just tasted all the different areas that there were. But that's kind of how I got started.
When did those first opportunities come about for you to actually, tour with some of these musicians? Do you remember when that first opportunity happened?
Yeah, I did some touring in high school in the summers because I was still in high school and was trying to get an education. So I did some shows with Hilary Duff in high school. But my parents were big on me finishing school, obviously. So I just sort of kept that mostly in the summers. And then when I got older into college is where I really started playing shows. You don't start on tour, right? You start with playing little dinky shows around town. You play all the dive bars. I played the Viper Room a million times. I played the House of Blues, and we had a residency at the House of Blues, me and a lot of my friends that I went to college with. We started a cover band, and we were just the house band on Sunday nights at the House of Blues. Started at Viper Room, then I moved to House of Blues. And we just played covers every week. And I think that was really good learning experience for me because I got really familiar with song structure and how to cue a band. It's a really specific thing that you kind of need to know, like whose turn it is and who has a solo and who doesn't, and how to be like, just how to cue everyone so that we're all on the same page if we're not having rehearsed everything. So that was really good experience for me, and just learning how to play live. And then you play live and people start seeing you and say, hey, I have this opportunity. Would you like to come tour with XYZ? And that's kind of how those experiences came up. Just came up from me doing what I wanted to do at a smaller level and doing it well enough to where people start to see you and say, hey, you would be good for this other thing I'm doing. And then one by one, the opportunities get a little better.
It was your original dream to be a jazz singer? Did you want to like tour being a jazz singer?
Yeah, I think that was what I thought I wanted to do. All in my even middle school and teens, like I have all these talent shows where I'm singing jazz standards and everyone's like, I don't know what these songs are, like of my age, you know? So I think I did want to do that because I didn't see myself represented as a pop act. In my mind couldn't bridge the gap of how that would occur or what that would look like. So I thought jazz was like the area, and I had a lot of experience, so I felt comfortable in that area. I felt confident. And then as I studied more and learned more about songwriting, I realized that I really, really love pop music. I think it's really interesting to study why a song does so well with so many people. I just think that's fascinating. And the fact that there is sort of an equation to those songs, they're not just randomly good. There's an equation. You see the same names on a lot of the top songs, and I wanted to figure that out. And that's when I sort of realized that maybe my jazz background was the foundation for all these other areas that I could go into.
When did you compose your first pop songs?
Oh, there's some bad ones from high school. We don't need to listen to those ones. Yeah, I started writing in high school, but they were just like terrible. Mm-hmm. I think I thought that you had to use all the tricks every song, like key change, signature change. Like now there's going to be this big instrumental break. Like I just was shoving too many things in at once. And as I've learned more and more about songwriting, I think I do less. Mm-hmm. I'm scaling it back always. But really professionally writing, I would say maybe the last like 10 years. Mm-hmm. I thought I was doing professional writing before, but I think now I've really been like honing that.
And you're doing writing workshops every week now, right? You're regularly?
Writing workshops, you mean writing with other people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do pretty much sometimes 3 to 5 sessions a week. So what I've learned about myself, which I wish I had learned earlier, is that I'm a really great collaborator and I'm not great on my own. Mm-hmm. And not that I'm not great, but I'm not structured enough. I need to know that I have an appointment, that I have to show up to be there. Because if I'm just writing on my own, sometimes I'm easily distracted. I check my Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So for me, I do, and I love feeding off people. I love learning tricks from other people. So co-writing is a great way for me to get better and for me to learn what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. Whenever people ask me, how do I become a better writer? The first thing I always say is just go co-write with as many people as you possibly can, because you learn tricks that you don't know. You learn, and you don't know what you're not good at until you see someone else being better than you. And songwriting isn't something that's like out in the open, like singing. Singing, you can watch, anybody can watch someone sing and be like, that person's good, I don't like this person. But songwriting, you don't know unless you're in those rooms watching it occur. So I think just writing with a ton of other people, and most of my sessions, my manager sets me up. I show up, we say we're starting at 11 a.m. or whatever. I get on Zoom, it's me and 2 other writers, and we have something that we're going after, or the artist is there. Mm-hmm. And and the artist tells us about what's going on, and then we try to write that song. And then usually 5 hours later or so.
5 hours, wow.
Sometimes less, sometimes more. Then the song's done, and hopefully, and usually one of those other writers is also producing as we're writing. And then if there's no artist in the session and we're writing it to pitch to an artist, like say we write, we usually get a brief like so-and-so is looking for this type of song. They don't want to sing about breakups. They want to talk about this. They like these 3 songs as reference. So then we write that, and then when it's done, the other writer produces it, and then they send me that track, and I sit here on Logic and I cut the vocal and comp it and try to make it sound good or sound like that artist. And then we send it off.
That's great. Talk about some of your early tours with some of these big acts, and you played keyboard with them. What was the experience like? What did you learn in the process that made you want to, do more of the business side of it rather than the touring all the time?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, the dream was to go on tour as much as possible. That was the goal. And I toured some as a solo artist, like as myself. I was doing the artist thing for a while at a small level, right? So I was playing like 200 capacity venues all over the country and in a van and like that thing. And then a few different acts asked me to, I played some shows with Colbie Caillat, who was at the time like this organic-y pop singer. And I played keys and sang for her. And a lot of that is just like flying to wherever, and you're in a hotel room. It's a lot of travel. It's more, you're 99% a traveler and 1% a musician. That's really what touring is. If I could tell anyone anything, it's like mostly you're a traveler. So you have to really like traveling. And then sometimes you get to play music a little bit. So that was great. And then I got picked up on the Selena Gomez tour, which was awesome. And at that time she had this amazing band. And I was the only vocalist singing with her. So it was just me and her on vocals, and then this amazing band. And that opportunity came up because my friend Fred Lee was the musical director for her and was looking for a backing vocalist that could mimic sort of like, you want someone that can match tone and pitch similar, so that you can blend well. And he offered it to me, which was very kind of him. And it was a great thing. It was fun. We got to play Madison Square Garden and the Staples Center. And then we also got to play Saturday Night Live and Ellen and Jimmy Fallon. And it was like an unbelievable experience. But by the end of that, what I realized is I don't really like touring. It's not actually my favorite. And I didn't know that. I thought that was the goal. But I think I want to write songs. And so I wanted to write the songs that we were singing. And so I decided to take a break from that, come back and really like hone in on the songwriting stuff and get better at that.
Are you glad that you did that touring when at the beginning of your career? Do you regret that at all, or you're just
No, I don't regret it. I am a big believer that everything is supposed to be as it is. And no, that was an incredible learning experience for me. It was a gift. And it also taught me that even if you play what you think is the top, right? You think like, once I play Madison Square Garden, I'll really be awesome. And then you play it and you're like, yeah, well, but it wasn't my show. And like, I mean, you'll find a way to, there's never enough. So those shows were really important to teach me like, oh, it actually doesn't matter what the thing is, because I'll always come up with another thing that's bigger and better that I should be doing. So it actually just matters if I'm proud of what I'm doing, because there's never enough of the, you know what I mean? You're always trying to get to the next best thing. And it's important to just know, okay, that happened, but really what lights me up, what like makes me so excited is when I'm writing with someone and we find that hook and I'm like, I think that's going to be it.
How about, so you worked on the show Songland. So tell us about that
Yes.
experience. What was that like, and what did you enjoy about that, and what was the greatest learning experience from that?
So I'm going to be super boring when I talk about Songland because I signed this crazy NDA that I can't talk about anything. But Songland was a great experience, and I was part of a really amazing team that helped find the writers and musicians for which is who you see when you are watching the show. And it was a great experience, and I was really happy and honored to be asked. And I think it taught me a lot about how to know what is a good song and what isn't a good song, because no one really knows what a good song is. Everybody has their own opinion, and when something hits, still some song will get huge and I may love it and the person next to me be like, oh, I hate that song. So it was really interesting to do a long period of time where you're listening to music and just trusting that and that the people I was working with on the show were like, I think this is really good. And then the person goes on the show and they're amazing and other people like it. And you're like, okay, good. That wasn't like, I'm not crazy. I think that person was really good.
One of our Soundhouse producers, Ryan Innes, was on Songland.
Yeah. Songland is great. Like I've seen a lot of writers really like move to the next level from that and find publishing deals and get their artist projects going. And I think it's great.
That's great. So obviously you must have your own publishing company, and has that been a great experience for you, and developing your long-term revenue string, and also having other artists cover your songs?
Well, I'm actually between publishing deals right now. So I'm on the hunt for a publisher that is the right fit. Mm-hmm. So that's been an interesting thing. It's sort of like dating. You kind of go meet with them and they're feeling you out and you're feeling them out, and you're like saying all your best things first because you want them to like you, and they're trying to act like they don't like you, but they do like you. And then everyone's trying to play it cool. It's a really funny dance, but certainly having music that you have the business side set up and your sort of team established will exponentially increase the financial success of your music project. So having, the right people in place to collect that money and find and have those songs in this commercial or that thing or with this artist is how we monetize. It's how we make money. And also, there are two organizations that are sort of leading the way for songwriters right now. And one of them is called SONA, SONA. And if you're a writer or a musician, I strongly encourage you to go check out SONA. It's the Songwriters of North America. And it's an organization that is sort of, it's like a club, for lack of a better word. And they have workshops, and we do a lot of lobbying to the government to try to correct some of the laws for songwriters so that we can be earning a fair living with our streaming royalties. And because the way that that's set up isn't really in our favor at the moment. And so SONA's great. And also NSAI, which is, I'm going to forget what it stands for right now, but NSAI is the Nashville Songwriters Association. And both those groups are amazing. If you're a writer, get involved. You'll meet lots of great writers and learn a lot about your business.
Do they have songwriting workshops or techniques on songwriting?
Yeah, they have some workshops. They also have a program. NSAI has a program where you can submit a song and they'll critique it. And they have like big heavy hitters that will give you feedback, tell you what to work on, what you're doing right. They also have like contests. They have songwriting competitions you can enter. They have a lot of resources. I feel like a lot of people don't take advantage of that. a lot of songwriters just out there like doing their thing, and they don't know that there's so many things that are set up to sort of mentor you along the way. If you're a female, She Is the Music is an awesome one. They have a lot of opportunities for women that are coming up in production or songwriting, vocal producing, all those things. She Is the Music is awesome. There's a lot of them. You just got to look around.
Speaking of She Is the Music and programs for women, you've been involved in the Rock Camp for Girls.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in that? And tell us about that program and some exciting things that are going on with that.
Rock Camp for Girls is hands down the coolest thing ever on the planet. I wish it had been a thing when I was a kid. Basically, it is a social justice organization that is empowering girls through music education. And they have all these amazing women and non-binary people that will come teach music to only girls or non-binary girls. And they'll teach songwriting, they teach social media literacy, they also have like a self-defense, like they do all kinds of cool workshops, self-defense. They have a silk screening workshop where you make your own band logo and then you learn how to silk screen it on your shirt so you have band shirts. I mean, it's the coolest thing ever. And then at the end of the week, it's a week-long program. At the end of the week, the bands play a show at the Troubadour, and it sells out every single time, and all the teachers are in the audience like screaming. To see an 8-year-old girl come on stage like with a microphone and be like, "How you feeling, Los Angeles?" is just everything. So Rock and Roll Camp for Girls, Los Angeles. They have them all over. There's a Los Angeles, there's a Seattle, there's New York, there's Anaheim, there's a whole bunch of different ones across the country. But it's amazing. The people that teach in that program are, they are real heavy hitters. They're bassists. They've all toured. There's female publishers that come in and talk about what it's like to be a publisher, DJs, like just all across. We've had Katy Perry come be a counselor for a day, Sarah Bareilles. It's rad.
So, Aijia, have the opportunities for women in this business, especially behind the scenes, working on the business side, have they improved in the recent years, or how do you see the trends going and where it's going for the future?
I think it is improving. I think it's slow going. I noticed that on songwriting sessions that I get pulled in on, I noticed that a lot of, if there's two people and they need a third person to join and they're thinking of who can we use, I noticed that a lot of women will think of another woman to bring in or another man. And I notice when I see men doing it, sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I know this guy Joe." And they don't always go to like, "Oh, but also I know this other woman named Aijia and she can do the same thing and it's a woman, so we should take the woman." Because right now in the songwriting community, I think we make up less than 19% of all songs on the radio. And this is the thing. It's not because there's 19% good songwriters. There's equally as many good songwriters, but the opportunities aren't there. And I think it's also really important for women who are doing it to reach down and pull in other women into these sessions, into these programs, into anything that comes up like this, because we have to be more prevalent. And now I'm writing with significantly more female producers and writers than I did 10 years ago. But usually whoever is getting me into that session is a woman. I don't see that coming as often from men. So I don't know what that's about. If it's like, it's just less comfortable, if there can't be like, I don't know what the age of this is, it can't be like dick jokes or something that you don't want a woman in the room for that. But it really does shift the opportunity if it's always going to the comfort zone. So I think it's really important for people that are in those spaces and are in those rooms to reach around and pull in who you can. There's an artist named Christina Perry, who's an amazing artist, singer. She has a lot of songs. Yeah. She her most recent record that she's doing, I wrote with her on, and she made the choice to only, now this is extreme, right? But like it's not even, doesn't even come close to the numbers. She made the choice to only work with women writers and producers, which I think is really rad because no one else is doing that. And even if she does that on one record, it's still still going to be 19% of all writers, maybe, you know what I mean? There's just so many. So I thought that was cool, and a cool way to show it can be done. And even if half of the writers in the room were female, or if it's 3 writers and 1's female, that will dramatically shift what it is right now, which is sort of like you have to like nudge your way in. And not everyone's nudgy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm nudgy. I'll be nudgy for all the women.
What's your advice to men to get them to include more women in the process?
Just to call it out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't realize that they're only writing with, sometimes men, and this isn't to vilify men because I write with tons of men who I love and who do always think of me.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I think men maybe don't always think of, it just doesn't occur to them that like, oh, but if you look at it, your last 5 sessions were all dudes in all of those rooms. Mm-hmm. And unless you say that you want to always have one woman in the room, or one person of color, or one queer person, those people aren't going to get that opportunity because no one's suggesting it. So I just think it's important for the people who do get in those rooms to pull other people up and just like remind people, point out, because maybe they don't realize, you know, we all have our own blind spots and our own bias, and it's not always malicious. It's sometimes just like, well, those are my boys that I like, you know, we played on a softball team together and now we're all great songwriters and that's our unit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, those are it's my take on it.
So at this point in your career now, you're also a mom. You are balancing a family. You're a performer. You're a composer. Your husband, Andy, is obviously a very famous performer and artist. How do you balance that with your new child, and balance your career and balance your family, and as you develop your family? So
you know what? I don't know. If someone has any tips, let me know. I always knew that I wanted a family. I always knew I wanted to do music, and I always knew I wanted a family. And I think that there is sometimes a default that you can't have it all. You can't do it all. And we make these boundaries in our mind that we have to make a choice one way or the other. And I just think that's bull. Like, I just don't think that's, if you want to do it all, you can. And I'm in here. This is our guest room that I converted to a studio. I put like sound panels everywhere.
All right.
If you want to have kids and do music, you can. You just have to move things around. And I come in here 3 days a week, sometimes more, and but generally 3 days a week. And from this hour to this hour, mom's in her studio. And when I need to nurse, I keep writing. Sometimes I say something. Sometimes the camera turns up a little bit and they don't notice. And it's someone's nursing on me and they don't even know. And then I pass the baby off and we're back to here. And also, I just think you're this whole human, right? You're a whole human. You have your career here. You have your, like, I want to have a family here. You have your relationships with your other family. You have your friends. You have, like, I want to read a book sometimes. There's all these things. And if career's killing it and all the other levels are at 0, that's not a happy life. That's not a well-rounded person. And that's not the goal to me. The goal is to have all the areas, like, kind of killing it. And so we plan a lot. When Andy is touring, I bring the kids and we go on tour. But that's not happening right now. So it's a lot easier. And we just make it work. And I also think it's really important for my daughters who, for whatever they go on to do, if they decide to go on to do music, or if they decide to go be a mathematician or whatever they choose, to see that mom values her creative purpose and that's important to her. Therefore, that should be important to me, and my creative purpose is important to me, and I have to do that for me because I saw my mom and my dad make sure that that was always fed. So I think that's just as important of a lesson as teaching your kid the golden rule, because they need to know how to follow their thing long after you're like parenting them. So I think you just got to find ways to, we also have so much help. So let me also say that we're very privileged. My mom lives nearby. We have an amazing nanny and a lot of family support in the area. And that's been, we're very lucky in that way as well.
Well, I mean, you've shown that it's possible to do them both. You just have to,
Heck yeah.
You just have to balance it all, and you have to have a good partner that can work with you, and you have to have a support team around you, and family and friends and all that stuff. But you don't have to sacrifice and give it up and do one or the other. You know, I'm only going to do my career, I'm not going to have a family, or I'm only going to do my family, I can't do my career.
Yeah. So, you know, let me add one thing. There's an amazing writer singer named Allison Porter. She won The Voice one of the times, but long before The Voice, she was an amazing writer and singer. She was actually Curly Sue. Have you ever seen that movie, Curly Sue? Mm-hmm. So she had kids younger and was still writing and doing all the stuff. And before I had kids, I said to her, I'm worried that if I have kids, I might not want to do music as much, or I don't know how it's going to fit or how to do it all. And she said to me, when you have children, you're fulfilled in a way that your career will never do for you. So when I was showing up to sessions before I had kids, I had a sort of desperate need to get for this to work every time. And that comes off. And as soon as I had kids, that went away because I was already fulfilled in a new way. And I'd show up to the sessions. I still worked all the time, but I didn't have such a desperate desire for it as much. And then it works better because you're not squeezing it to death. It just like flows more. So that was a good piece of advice for me. And I think it is absolutely true now in hindsight, having had children, that you have to be well-rounded in all these areas, and then things will flow to you. And if you're like one track minded to the end of the life, sometimes it stops the flow of stuff. You still have to work hard, but you know, you have to be balanced about it.
Are more artists doing what you and Andy are doing, where they're taking their kids on tour, or they're just kind of incorporating them into their career, so that it's not, you know, they're not choosing to leave them at home, or are they trying to bring them on?
I don't know. I think it depends on the artist. You know, there's plenty of artists that take tour as an opportunity to like meet girls in every city. And I don't, there's everything on the spectrum, right? But for us, the only way for us to do it, we made a 2-week rule. So every 2 weeks, either he had to fly home or I had to fly there. So we started plotting the tour out that way. And when I'm not like stuck in something, or I'm not on a tour, I'm not like bogged down by something, it wasn't impossible for me to go there. Sometimes I'd have to go there 2 times in a row, and then he'd get a couple of days off and come home. So for us, that was just like part of the deal. And also for me, I was like, well, if you want to stay married, like that's how it has to work. And so then that's how. And then we made it work, you know? And then the last tour that he did before this quarantine, I was pregnant, and I got something called hyperemesis gravidarum, which is basically like I just puked the whole time, and I had to be like on IV, and it was a hot mess for most of the pregnancy. So during that time, I physically couldn't go there. And so the only way for him to get home, the only way for him to see me or his daughter was to come home, because I couldn't travel with her. I was like on bed rest. So we hadn't planned the tour out that way. Like it was already booked and planned, He was committed to these venues on these dates. So on his one day off, every 10 days, they'd have one day off, and he would fly to LA and back in the same day.
Oh my God.
For months, he did that. So, you know, it's not a perfect science, but we make it work, you know?
Did you meet Andy at Cal State Northridge?
I did. I met Andy when we were in music school at CSUN. He was a music industry studies major, and I was a jazz studies major. But we didn't start dating then. We just met there. And we were friends for many years. We used to write music together. And he was doing his gigging. He was like always going after an artist project. He was busking a lot of the time when he was at CSUN. And I was doing the band thing, and we were friends. I remember at one point he said to me, if you really want to take it serious in the music industry, you should move to Hollywood, because that's where all the serious people are. And I was like, okay. So me and my friend moved to Hollywood a couple blocks over, and we were like, is it serious? Does anyone care about us yet? Yeah. And we were buddies there for a long time.
Were you, I mean, obviously you're developing your career, he's developing his career. Did you help him get his career off the ground too? Or was he already kind of established by the time you guys ended up getting together?
I didn't help him directly. Like I wasn't a part of his team per se. But when I met him, he was busking. So like, I remember in the early days, we would just be hanging out and we'd be sticking stickers on his demo CDs so that he could sell them as he busked. So that's like the stage I met him in. I don't think that I helped him directly, but I would say that my role was very important because I was the muse for a lot. So a lot of the songs that everyone knows are about very specific things in our life that happened. So that's an important role too.
Yeah. And did you tour with him too?
I don't know if you could say tour. I didn't tour like on the tour bus as his backup singer. Yeah. Whenever I would go visit, I would hop on a song or two.
Okay.
So does that count? I don't know. And then sometimes if he'd do like TV stuff, I would sing backup. But I never really toured with him like on the tour bus, unless it was like as a wife to visit, and I'll hop on for a song or two because I was always doing my own thing here in LA. And you know, you got to pay me more. I don't know.
So since you're in your studio, talk about what kind of setup you have there, what your gear is. So for all our gear.
Gear. I'm actually having a desk built right now. If you're looking for someone to build your studio, I would highly recommend Nyback Builds, Nyback. He is someone that I also met through all the CSUN music people. He is a bassist. He's played bass for me for many years. And he just started a studio building company. Since he was kind of doing it on the side anyways, he just like went full blown with it. And he is building me a custom desk to hold all my everything, because a lot of the studio desks that I found online are very masculine and I didn't like them. And I wanted a white one. So he's making me one. I use my Apollo Twin. That's my interface. I have my SM7B microphone here, same microphone that Thriller was recorded on. I have Sony headphones. I just got a new Korg D1 keyboard that's going to fit in my desk that will pull out, but it's arriving. My keyboard's here, but the desk is arriving next week. And yeah, I'm just over here trying to write music. And then I have a grand in the other room, piano.
Oh.
That was actually passed down to me from my grandfather.
Oh, fantastic.
So
it helped to have these parents who are like heavily involved in music, and grandparents, and
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. You never had to explain how to go that you wanted to go into music and have to fight for that.
Well, I think my parents were very supportive of a creative endeavor. They still thought that I should go to school because I think all parents think like go to school and somehow that's going to make it easier for you. But yeah, I didn't have to fight. I didn't have to fight to talk them into the fact that it was a legitimate thing. Now that my family does a lot of gigging and stuff, so they're not really on the business side of music, but yeah, it was very helpful. And you know, all these piano tuners in the family, every time we have Thanksgiving, someone's always telling me my piano's out of tune. So that's nice.
All right. Jaden tells me that we have a question from the audience. So Jaden,
Sure.
why don't you open up and ask Aijia the question?
Yeah, so the question is there like kind of such thing as being too diverse? Like there's a lot of things that people can do, like performing, teaching, producing, writing music. A lot of people are multi-instrumentalists. Is there such thing as like, is it okay to do all of that, or would you recommend honing in on a few of those areas, or what's your experience been?
I think that it's great to be good at a lot of things. If you're trying to sell that you're good at all those things, I think it's hard for people to remember you for anything if you're just good at everything. So when I'm going to play a show, and which is not happening during COVID, but when I'm going to play a show and I'm like, oh, they need a really killer bass player that's good at like soul, funk, pop music, I'm not going to think of the guy who's good at bass, writing songs, producing, also plays violin, because my brain doesn't know him as that one thing. So I think it's important to be diversified, but it's also really important to know what your few strengths are and to be getting better at those few strengths all the time and promoting those few strengths and like always talking about that is your thing. I can play piano. I'm not taking a solo on piano. I'm not, you know, I'm not Stevie Wonder. So when someone says, what do you do? I say, I'm a killer songwriter. I'm good with chord progressions. I can help figure out what our progression is going to be. And if you need me to sing it, I can sing it. Am I Mariah Carey? No. But I can sing, right? And I can also make the vocal sound good. So I'm not saying, oh, and I play a little bit of guitar, but like not very good. And probably I wouldn't do, but I could, if you need me to, I could, because that's not my best foot forward. So I think it's really important to know what your best foot forward is and then cater to those, let's say 3 things. That's what I would say. But be good at all of them.
Aijia,
That's great.
Did you have any more questions, Jaden? Or
I think there was another one kind of about, we were talking earlier about songwriting and the whole process and getting that like the whole creative side going. And I guess on top of that, they're asking about kind of library music and like, is that a good way as a writer to have an income, or if you're going to write music, should you focus maybe on like your own individual stuff as an artist or as a songwriter, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I would say the first thing you should do is stop thinking of it as I'm going to do music to make a lot of money. Just stop that first. That's your first thing. You will make music and you will make money, but the goal is you should make that secondary, because I think it's first you have to establish yourself before people will start hiring you a lot. And as far as library music goes, I find that when I talk to a lot of the music sync houses right now, they don't really want like I have one song that's like a country ballad. I have one song that's like a hip hop trap beats. They don't, it's similar to the person who asked the question, should I diversify? If you're not really good at 1 or 2 or 3 things, they don't remember you when they're going to find that thing. So if I go, oh, I need a really good country ballad, I'm not going to think of the person who also sent me trap beats and also sent me like a house thing. You want to be really, you want to get one thing that you're killer at, or a couple things, 2 things, and make a whole, I find, make a whole project that sounds like that. I've had more success when I make like an EP under a different name or something, and I shop that EP to a sync house, and then they're like, oh, we know this person for this type of music. And every time that something comes up where they need that type of music, they're like, oh, I remember this person who does that thing really well. So I think if you're going to try to do the library stuff, pick an area and be good at that area. Even if you hear all the songs that I write, they still fall under pop genre. There's not too much like super hip hop stuff. There's not too much like super country. They're all pretty like they would be on Kiss FM or My FM. So knowing like what your direction is, getting specific about that, I think is more helpful to you for making money and licensing stuff.
So Aijia, let's talk about this time period we live in, which with COVID, where you can't really go out and do those gigs at those small little clubs or anything,
Yeah.
or other bands or do. What can our Soundhouse musicians do now in this environment to still, get experience, to connect with other musicians? I mean, we're doing online bands. We have musicians all over the world, so we're able to get a lot of musicians together in our programs. And musicians from Australia and Japan, and all across the country are able to play together. And then we have a dream band, and we have schools that we're working with. So what are some things that you can think of that these Soundhouse musicians can do in order to still move their art forward during this crazy lockdown period that doesn't, we don't see any end in sight right now,
I think you're being asked to get really good at a few things. I think the first thing is production. I really didn't want to do production. I didn't want to do it. It was like a weird mental block that I had. I just wanted to write and sing and play. But you are being asked by the world to be good at that. So you have to learn a little bit of Logic or GarageBand or Ableton, or it's a requirement for you. Even if you're a singer, especially if you're an artist, it is a requirement that you be able to record your vocal with some type of instrument backing you, guitar or bass or piano. I think just to be able to simple demo your idea out is like, you have to learn that. There's so many YouTube tutorials. You can literally type in, how do I start a song in Logic? Logic is $150 on iTunes. You could buy it, save up your money and buy it. It's so helpful. I also think you're being asked to be better at your instrument right now. So if you're a piano player and if you want to write songs, go listen to all the top 40 songs that are killing right now and learn them on your instrument. Not like listen to them a bunch of times. Listen to the song, sit down at the piano, and learn what the chord progressions are and study the progressions, and then go to the next one. Okay, this Bieber song, what is happening here? Okay, it starts on the root, then it goes, figure that out, because once you know how to do that, you understand how to make those. You can make them. There's a formula. It's not by chance that all those songs are good. And if you're trying to be a better bass player, what is like the Jamie Aebersold? I did a lot of the Jamie Aebersold. They're so boring, but you will get better if you do them. It's a band in a box. It's like a little recording. You push play. And if you Google Jamie Aebersold, it's like a band basically that plays, and you get to play your instrument along with it. And they just play through the song and you get to follow. So I think we're really being asked to get good at things that especially artists don't love doing. They don't always love practicing, and they don't always love being not perfect at something. Like, I think I personally really didn't want to learn Logic because I had already been in so many sessions. I know what it looks like to be proficient and fast at it. And I knew that I wasn't going to be starting there. But you have to be willing to suck at something again. And if you can just be willing to suck for a little while, you'll get better fast. Just be always okay with sucking at something, because everyone wants to help someone who's open to learning. And no one wants to help someone who thinks they know everything and really doesn't.
Andrew, we have another question.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the question is, once we can play shows, how do you work your way up from a small local venue to bigger ones and eventually just like world-class stages? Kind of the whole, I guess, the whole spectrum from beginning to end.
Yeah, I think the way to do that is A, you have to write really good songs, and B, you have to be promoting. So when you play shows wherever you are, I think a lot of people think in the beginning that if they play the big venue, then people are going to see them. And it actually isn't that way. It's that if you play the big venue, you have to sell that venue out. You have to bring those people. So if you don't find people to come watch you, then the next size up venue is not going to ask you to come play. They want to know that you can, like, for example, I used to play, there's a venue in LA called the Hotel Cafe, right? The Hotel Cafe is like 200-ish, 250 capacity. And when I first started playing there, they would be like, okay, we'll let you play. You can have Monday night, because no one comes on a Monday, at 7 p.m. No one's coming to a show at 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. Like, no one wants that because everybody's still getting off work. They need to change their clothes. They want to eat, whatever. So they'll start you on those crappier slots because they want to see what you can do, right? So I'd be like, okay, great. I'd promote the hell out of that show. I'd make a flyer. I'd tell everyone. I'd spend the whole month getting everyone I know. If I met someone at the line of whatever Starbucks, I would tell them about, and I made that my job. And then I would sell out that Monday night over and over and over. And then after a while, they're like, all right, do you want a Saturday at 10 p.m.? I was like, great, I'll take it. So then I would sell out a Saturday night, which is harder because people have more choices. They can go to many more places on a Saturday night. So, and then when you sell that out, then when you go hit up the next size venue, like a Troubadour or whatever the next size up is, you can say, well, I just sold out this place on a Saturday night with this many people. And then they trust you. But nobody wants you to play if you're not bringing people in because they don't make money. They have to make money at the bar. They have to sell food. They have to pay a doorman, all those people, right? So promote. That's your job if you want to move up those venues sizes and write better songs. And I think sometimes what happens, myself included, is artists think that I'll just keep playing shows and I'll play this show and then next week I'm going to play this show and next week I'm going to play that show. And what happens is that you're just playing your same B-level songs over and over again. And you're rehearsing in between and you're trying to get the band and you're promoting. So that's taking up a lot of time. When really what you need to do is stop playing shows for a minute and get better at writing so that when you play a show, people will tell everyone to come. And more people are going to want to come because you have something that is special. And I think that is something that I see a lot of people in LA do wrong. They're just like out there playing, and not really looking objectively at how are these songs doing? Are they really good? Are they so-so? If they're so-so, stop selling a product that's so-so. Go make a better one. You can write a million songs, you know. My husband's song, he has a song called Honey, I'm Good. And that was song 101 of that album that he wrote. So he wrote 101 songs and the 101st was the one that was the single. So, and those, I'm not saying like he wrote a couple lines on guitar. I'm saying like went to a session with other people, spent the whole day, produced it times 101. So I think you need to write a lot of songs, like a lot. And then you need to promote the hell out of that. And then bigger and the next step and the next step and the next step. And then it'll just keep growing.
It's kind of that philosophy with the business. You spend so much time working in your business, but you have to step outside and work on your business to grow your business.
Yes.
Improve because you're just kind of stuck in this rut. You're like a hamster in a wheel, just going around and around, and you're not like in the bigger cage and getting the.
Yeah. I don't play that many shows. I play a show here and there. I mean, obviously not in COVID. I'm not playing a ton of shows, but I don't play that many shows because I'm writing more and whatever. But the last show I played, it was probably like a year in between, which is a long time for me. And a lot of the people that came to the show were like, oh, you got so much better. And I was like, no, I didn't. The songs are better. I didn't get better at all. I haven't played a show in a year. I don't even know how to hold the microphone anymore. The songs got better because I spent a year writing instead of a year trying to get people to come to something. So don't underestimate the power of being really good at your thing before you go out to the world and tell everyone you're really good at the thing.
And it's great to start off as a cover band. Hey, the Beatles started off as a cover band,
Everyone I know who is doing the thing right now was in a cover band. Everyone. I mean, all of them played weddings, bar mitzvah. I have played so many weddings. I can't tell you. I've sung all the love songs at all the weddings.
But you have to write your own songs as a band, as an artist, because that's yours.
Yes, you have to write your own songs, but it's really good to learn from the greats. So go study all those. You can literally type in top wedding songs of 2020 and a list will come up. And if you learn those songs, I promise you will be better at writing your own love songs.
Yeah, I mean, all these musicians have 50 million songs at their disposal on Apple Music or Spotify. It's very easy to pull that stuff up. There's some apps like Genius app where you can pull up all the lyrics. And so it's all at their disposal, right?
It's all easy. And when I write, the ones that I use a lot are, there's a website called B Rhymes, just the letter B Rhymes. So when we're writing and I can't think of the next word, I'm like, oh, what rhymes with now? And then I look on B Rhymes. And we use Google Doc a lot. So especially for Zoom, we all get on Zoom. I'll send someone a Google Doc link. And then I'm like, what about this lyric? And then I type it and then they can see it on their screen. And they go, what if we change this word? And then we get stuck and I go look on B Rhymes. How, now, cow, brow, what? You know what I mean? That's how we do it. And no one really knows. Everyone's just taking a stab and,
awesome. Jaden, are there any more questions out there?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, Aijia, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thanks for having me.
You're a model for taking everything that people want to do in their lives to build their career, to build their family, to build relationships, and find a way to balance it all and still grow as a human being in every possible way and have successful parts of their life and still do it all.
Thank you. I'm on Instagram. My name is Aijia Official, AIJIA Official. So if you're a writer or whatever and you're coming up, follow me. I'm sometimes I respond when I have a minute, and I love to help however I can.
And your other social, are you on the other social channels?
I'm on TikTok as This Is Aijia. I do post songwriting tips on TikTok if you'd like to. And yeah, you can find me. You just Google my name, you'll find me. And I'm happy to help where I can. So if you're a girl, check out She Is the Music. If you're a writer, check out SONA, Songwriters of North America, and NSAI. And if you're a young kid, check out Rock and Roll Camp for Girls. It's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to be our guest.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. All right. Goodbye.